Hi, good afternoon, maybe good morning for some of you, or any time of the day for people who watch us in recording. This is our regular Friday podcast where you ask me questions and I try to answer them live. Any questions are welcome about management, about software engineering, about programming, maybe about your career development. I'm very glad to see you online. Thanks for coming. Thanks for asking your questions. Be brave. Ask whatever concerns you most. And I will try to be as honest as possible, sharing my experience and potentially helping you in your daily work. First question. My goal, that's the question I'm reading. My goal is to create a project that achieves 100 stars on GitHub to put it on my CV. How can I decide which one should I do? Projects that I do on my daily use, for my daily use, aren't interesting to anybody. First, you have to understand and remember that it's basically or mostly a matter of chance. It's hard to guarantee that any particular project can be popular on GitHub. So it's a numbers game. The more software you create, the more you put online, the bigger the chance. But keep in mind two things basically. I'm just taking them from your question. First, what matters for people on GitHub, what matters for any potential user you may find, is the quality of your product. You not only need to write the software with certain functionality, you have to make it attractive to the users. And they will be attracted to it if they see that the quality is high. And quality is not about the functionality, it's about the way your product looks, how your README file looks, how beautiful is your documentation, how perfectly you configured everything in GitHub. Do you have continuous integration? Do you have support and tickets? Do you answer those tickets? Do you maintain your code properly? All of those things, they matter. If you go to my YouTube channel and look for the OSBP course of lectures, which are about open source best practices, you will see there that I found pretty large number of academic papers which study the popularity of open source projects, and most of them say that people pay attention to how your product is organized, how your product is decorated before they decide to use it. Because of that, pay attention to this, not only to the functionality, but the way you format it. Another interesting example, look at the KaiCode competition festival, which we organize every year, and we just finished it a few weeks ago, where over 400 projects were submitted to us, and only 3 of them got their prizes and were appreciated by the jury. You will see that the majority of projects which come to the festival, they are of a moderate or below moderate quality. And those are the projects which people care about, which some of them have thousands of stars. We even had a project from Google on this festival. And still, there are many things which could be done better. And that's why the jury didn't select those projects, but only selected 3 of them. If you pay to those 3, if you pay attention, if you review those 3 projects, you will see how much attention to details people pay there. Maybe because of that, they got the appreciation from the market. That's one thing. And second thing, from your question, I'm getting that you're trying to make the project in order to put it to the CV. You're trying to make this project for yourself in order to boost your CV, which is right, which is perfectly normal. This is why we're all contribute to open source, because we want to show off. We want to show our skills in order to make money from the employer, possibly in the future, and that's okay. But this shouldn't be your primary motivation. At least you shouldn't tell yourself that this is what motivates you, that this is what drives you there. You should be driven by your desire to create something that will help people, no matter how it sounds. It may sound too romantic for some people, but it should be the primary motivation for you. Try to help people, try to give them something which they don't have, and they will reward you with the stars. They will reward you with pull requests. They will come back with something which will bring your project to higher level. Next question. How do you deal with people who ramble too much? That's hard to deal with people who ramble too much. I don't know exactly what you mean by ramble. I mean, they talk too much in the company. They express themselves too much. They take too much time at the microphone. They drag too much attention to themselves. It's better to walk away, I believe. And it happens that these people, actually this happens even at the conferences sometimes. When you go to the conference and you end up in a company, in a group of people, and then one or two people, usually it's one, start talking and demonstrating some thoughts and basically taking the time at the microphone for too long. Well, people recommend that you should tell this guy to move it offline, and then we're going to talk about this later. But I don't have a recipe. I'm at the same position as you are. I don't know what to do with them. Next question. What I think about low code for business? Well, in general, I'm quite skeptical about low code, no code trend. It looks like First of all, it looks like something which we all knew for many years, but with a different name. We know that certain things may be solved without writing code. And actually, writing code now is not as much about code writing, but about assembling things and taking the framework components and putting them into one piece and then creating the software. This is what was done before 10 years ago. This is what we're doing right now. Then the low code is just an interesting fancy name for the same procedure which was before. But the people who promote low code, they tell us that in the future there will be just a configurator, there will be just a dashboard where you click the certain buttons and all of a sudden you get a ERP system for your business. And that's an accounting system, that's a asset management system, that's a HR management system. We actually had something like that in large, like SAP, for example, SAP. They also have some kind of constructors there. You don't write code there all the time. You configure the system. So in general, I think that's right. That's what users need. That's what people need. The customers who are not programmers. What if I'm just saying trivial things now, but let me say something which is less trivial. If I would be the designer of a system which is supposed to be used by customers who are not programmers, and my job is to make this system as configurable as possible without the necessity to write code, I would make it through textual configuration files. Instead of forms, instead of checkboxes and buttons and drop boxes. For you as a customer, as a user, in order to configure the system, I would make it possible to open some document, some digital file, a textual file, just a plain text file, in something like YAML or Markdown format, and then explain the system there in Markdown or in YAML, not in JSON, not in XML, but in something which is easy for an end user, preferably Markdown. Explain how the system should work, using some sort of a controlled natural language. Something which is parsable by the computer and at the same time formal, at the same time understandable by the user, by the human being and the computer. Just like Wikipedia pages. In the Wikipedia or Wikimedia, You configure the page using certain format which they invented. This format in general is plain English, but with certain markup embeddable into the text. The same I would do for low-code systems. I would allow end users, business customers, to explain what they need in that kind of format. I actually tried to do that a few times in my career when I was designing certain architectures, and it was hard to convince business users that they should use this format before even trying to implement that. I was having troubles with programmers, explaining programmers that this is the way we should design our system and give it to customers. The programmers, they were against that. Programmers were telling me that, no, we actually need proper checkboxes and the forms and everything which is known now as low-code systems, where you design it with the mouse. And I was telling them, no, the users are smarter than that. They can design it with the text. They can learn this controlled natural language. They can learn this markup language. But programmers, they were disagreeing with me. But maybe you in the future, one of those who are listening to me now, maybe you can do it in your system. I believe that's the future. Next question. Which method do you prefer to help poor people, charity or policy? That's a good question, thank you. I, in general, don't like to help poor people with money or with charity or something like that. I prefer to help people with education, with training, with information, with some sort of monetary appreciation of their work. For example, KaiCode competition. I'm investing into this festival of open source projects for 10 years already. I invested almost $25,000. $25,000. Every year I give away about $3,000 or $4,000. Just last week I gave away $3.5 thousand. Not to poor people. I don't think these people are poor who got the money. They're programmers. One programmer is from America. I don't think he's poor. He's got PhD. I don't think he needs this money desperately. I believe he's doing quite well. And other people from Turkey, from Germany. But I believe that this is the right way to help the humanity, to help the civilization, by helping people who deserve to get the help because they want to get better. They want to grow in the way of education, in the way of their professional growth, just helping people who suffer with no food, with no water. Maybe that's also a divine practice, but for more maybe richer people, for billionaires, for Bill Gates, that if I would be at that level, then I would be concerned about just giving food to millions of people. But at my level, I'm more concerned about helping young programmers, for example, to feel appreciation for their work, for their study, for their contribution to open source. I encourage you to do the same. If you have some money, if you have a few $1,000s which you would like to donate somewhere, you come, for example, to us, to KaiCode, give it to us, and we will distribute this money among software developers who will enjoy that. They will get the money and they will do something. They will. Overall, we're looking for what? What's the ultimate objective? The ultimate objective is to help the civilization in general to do better, to achieve better results, to achieve better prosperity. I don't think we can achieve prosperity by just giving food to people who don't have food, no matter who are these people. Do they care about education? We don't know. Do they care about open source? We don't know. We just give them food. It doesn't look very effective to me as an instrument to improving this civilization, improving maybe one country situation. I'm in general, let me summarize. I'm in general in favor of supporting the best people who for some reason don't have enough appreciation. but the best people, the people who achieved something or trying to achieve or getting close to that achievement, these people need it, and helping them and giving them money will give us overall, all of us, the largest result. Next question. I hope I explained it. Next one. I'm about to start my final year at the university. Currently have a dilemma choosing between going to graduate school or working. What would you do in my case? Good question, and I think I answered that many times. You should study for as long as you can. Well, of course, if your study increases your level. Definitely that would be waste of time if you do bachelor degree and then you get bachelor degree and then you get bachelor degree. That's just waste of time. But if you can go from bachelor to master's, then to PhD, then maybe from the PhD you can do even bigger and then continue studying. The longer you stay on the academic path, the better for you strategically speaking. The better you will feel when you get 40 years old. You're asking your question right now. I believe you're 20, 22 years old. This is the time when you have your energy, your time, and the possibility to invest all of that into yourself. You don't need to feed your family at that time. You don't need to actually make money to survive. You can survive on smaller amount of money. You still have a possibility to wait and invest this time and energy into becoming a better something which will earn bigger results in the future. The money, well, you're asking the money, I think. Your question concerns the ultimate result, which is about money. You want to do well. You want to become a successful person, successful man. Success means appreciation from the society. The society will give you the appreciation if you deserve it. Well, on average, that's how society works. Of course, we have people who are criminals, for example. They just take money from the society. But even in this case, we can say that these people are so good that they deserve to take our money. So we let them steal the money from us because they're so good criminals. So no matter what kind of profession, no matter what kind of job we're talking about, it's all a question about the exchange of values. You are of a great value. We give you the money. Now the question is, how do you get to this value? When you're 20 years old, what kind of value do you have? You have no value. Maybe you have a talent, but this talent is not developed yet. You're basically nothing. You're nobody. So we will be very skeptical about giving value to you because you don't give us anything. You need to become bigger. How do you become bigger? On average, it's better to stay on the academic route in order to get these rewards, like the master's degree, like a PhD degree. More people will know you. You will get more appreciation from the society. You will get something which in the future people will trust. And it will be easier for you to become a millionaire when you're 40. And on average, people become rich after 40. They don't become rich when they're 25. It happens rarely. It happens only to, Mark Zuckerberg. But even in this case, we don't know exactly what happened there. We don't know exactly why he got rich. But on average, people become rich, well, maybe even after 50. So think about that and think what you're going to do from 20 to 50, this 30 years of your life. What you're going to do? How are you going to spend this time? Not getting successful, not becoming successful, basically sitting and waiting for the success to come and knowing that it's not going to come in the next 30 years. The question is how well you're going to prepare yourself for this success. And most people, they don't prepare themselves. They believe that success is right next to them, that success is supposed to happen next year. It's just right there. Just need to work a little bit harder. Just do a few more startups. Just work on a few more projects. Just meet a few more people, a few more investors, and boom, I'll get the success. It's not going to happen for the majority of you. For some of you, maybe, but that's just going to be just a few individuals, a few people. We're not going to count on that. That's just luck. But we're talking about the majority of people. So the majority, you will be poor. You will be poor until you're 50. The question is, will you be rich after 50 or not? That's the question you should ask yourself when building your career. And you don't want to be nobody after 50. That's going to be a tragedy. It's not a tragedy to be nobody when you're 25. It's okay. It's normal. It's actually an indicator of a successful career path. If you're 25 and you're a student, you're studying, you're working on your PhD, you're working on something which builds yourself. You're becoming a better software engineer, for example. You read books, you write some open source projects, you contribute somewhere, you're getting a normal average salary somewhere, but you're building yourself. You're thinking who you will become when you're 45. Next question. Could you tell us about the prospects of such a direction as test automation? Which direction should a person move if you feel like you're reached a glass ceiling? Test automation. I think that test automation is the area where it's easy to explore. It's easy to invent new things. It's easy to discover new methods. It's easy to create new software. There are so many troubles which we still don't know how to deal with in the area of, for example, security testing, or in the area of UI testing. We have some tools, we have some instruments, we wrote some books about that. But overall, our systems are heavily tested manually. We still have hundreds of testers. We still suffer from low quality of products on the market. We still, as a profession, we suffer. We don't know a lot of things, and you can create tools for that. You can create tools. You can write books. You can make lectures about that. You can invent new approaches. You basically need to focus on one question: how do I break the software better than people can do? It's all about breaking software. I said it many times, and because of saying that, I'm getting a lot of negative comments on YouTube. I'm saying it again. The job of a tester is to be a breaker, is to be a destructor. Your job is not to look at the software as something beautiful. Your job is to look at the software as something ugly. You have to prove to us that it's ugly. You have to prove to us programmers that what we created doesn't work. And it will never work. And it's done wrong. You have to invent how to do it. And the better the software, the more difficult is your job to be a destructor. And if the product is very stable, it's been developed for years, then of course you need very powerful tools to do that, to break our product, to break our code. I'm developing right now some small web application just as a side project. And I have very little amount of tools to help me look at it from different perspectives. I need basically to write those integration tests using some tools which are okay, but far from being perfect. Basically, I do a lot of things manually. I'm not going to go into details specifically about which tools and what kind of instruments you can create, but just not believe me, but take my opinion that there is more to do than in the area of programming. If you would ask me, how can you do something new in the area of software development, that would be a difficult question, because we have so many programming languages already. We have many frameworks. We have a lot of things which are quite stable. We know how to develop software. It's not a question anymore. It's not like 30 years before, 40 years before. At that time, people didn't know how to do basic things. Now most of the questions are resolved. We know, but testing, it's an open question with no final answer so far. I hope I just encouraged you enough. I didn't give you specific details. Maybe you will blame me for that, but at least I tried to encourage you. Next question: is computer science necessary for a novice developer, or is it worth first learning the language and framework and then getting started after gaining experience? Timmy is asking. That's a really good question, to be honest. I would say that experience and practical programming is more important. Well, at least this is how I got into this profession. I even didn't know what computer science is. I didn't even believe that computer science is a science. It's still a question for me, whether it's a science or it's just pretending to be science. Because when I read the books about programming and they're scientific books with the formulas and maths and everything, it looks like people are just trying to pretend that they're mathematicians. And they're trying to represent our craft as science. And they're saying we can analyze the source code using these formulas, and without the formulas, it's impossible. And look how complex the formulas are. I'm quite skeptical about that. But still, it's computer science. Certain things are definitely quite strict there and can be formulated, and it can help. It can help us create software. But first, I would put the engineering, of course. We need to make computers work. And to do that, we need to be engineers. That's first. And then computer scientists. To answer your question, yes, computer science is interesting, important, but as a second step. First, you need to feel how the computer listens to you. You need to enjoy it. You need to start interacting with the computer at the level of bits, bytes, registers, operators, memory, CPU, all of these elements. You need to feel them, and the computer starts listening to you, and you start making something which helps other people. And then you enjoy the profession. You start loving what you're doing. And after that, you say, okay, well, now give me the mathematics, give me the science, give me the computer science. And then I will also try to enjoy it. I didn't enjoy it in the beginning. I was, like I said, I'm still skeptical. But in the beginning, I was very skeptical. In the university, they were teaching me different computer science disciplines. And I was like asking myself every time, what is this for? Why are you giving me something which I don't need, because my software works as it is? I made it work. And my professors, my teachers, I knew they were not good programmers. They were not able to implement what I was able to implement. And it's still true. If you look at the professors who teach at the universities and look at the students who go to their lectures, the students are way more practical. The students are way more experienced, and they can create what professors cannot in most cases. And I feel the same being a teacher at the university. I teach them, I tell them something, I explain how it should work, but I know that they can do it without me. They can implement it because they're right there. They're hands-on programmers. And it takes energy, it takes effort to convince them, those students, that what I'm saying actually is important. And sometimes I don't even believe that. Sometimes I don't know whether this is a science, really a science, or pretending to be a science. Second question. Okay, there is some question about object-oriented programming. I guess the question is, how did I come to my own understanding of object-oriented programming after so many years of traditional object-oriented programming? I have to say that it's not that I came to that. Other people knew about that as well. It always was that traditional object-oriented programming was there, and at the same time there was a proper object-oriented programming. It was just not labeled as elegant objects. We didn't have the books about that properly formulated, and we didn't have the connection between the beautiful object-oriented programming and the practice. I think this is my contribution to the industry. That's how I contributed. I connected the theory of object-oriented programming with practical implementation of those theoretical ideas. But they were before. People knew about them, this theory of beautiful objects, of properly organized object-oriented design, of proper architecture. It was all there. I'm definitely not the one who invented that. But I made it more practical. In Java, in Ruby, a little bit in JavaScript. I just showed to programmers how we can do it, not in an academic world, not in books, but in practical coding. And that's what was interesting. It's a small contribution, but it was valuable for programmers. For me, first of all, I enjoyed that. For me, it was also a question for many years. So how these theoretical ideas about object-oriented programming can be connected to what I write every day in Java, in my daily projects, which I'm getting money for. And this connection was not established. I just didn't see that connection. I knew that there is a theory, but in practice, you open Apache framework, any Apache framework, and you see completely different picture there. So I started to eventually build this bridge, fill this gap, step by step. You can watch my lectures on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, which are like 8 years old. And you will see there that many things which I say are quite naive and very premature. I'm not confident about them at those lectures. Sometimes I'm saying something which I don't agree with today, because I was developing, I was trying, I was going through the steps, not me, people with me. We were doing it together while developing our projects, and we were experimenting, and I was writing blog posts. It was step by step. And now this understanding of object-oriented programming is more or less, in my head at least, it's more or less stable. But it wasn't in the beginning. Next question. Can you tell me how to properly represent the team in front of investors? How can I explain to investors that it's worth investing money in our team? We're students with a fresh idea. Dennis is asking. That's a good question. I don't have the simple answer. Maybe I can recommend to you to think about less about your idea and more about who you are in the eyes, or through the eyes of the investor. What does this investor see, and what does the investor want to see? Investors rarely invest into ideas, especially when it's very young investment. You're a group of students and you're probably looking for, I don't know, $50,000 maybe even less. You're not looking for $1 million, or maybe in your case you are looking for $1 million, but most probably if you're a student, you're looking for some seed money, and seed money is usually about less than $100,000. You're looking for small investment. Imagine I'm an investor. I understand that most probably your idea will fail. It's just statistically speaking. 99.99% of those ideas, they just fail. What doesn't fail is you. You will continue to exist. Your idea will be thrown away, but you physically, like people, you will continue to exist. You will be still people who are doing something, right? And if I give you the money, I want to stay with you. I want you to continue working together with me, continue maybe transforming this idea into something, continue staying in a loop with me, so that eventually, maybe on your fifth investment, on the fifth step of some money, which I potentially may give you again, you will create something interesting. I don't want to give you the money and just walk away. I want you to become my team. I give you $50,000 now, then you work for a year. If it doesn't work, you come back to me for another money. I introduce you to my friend. My friend gives you another $50,000. Then I give you another $50,000. And we go like this again, and maybe in 5 years, boom, You will create something interesting. The question for me is, can I trust you on that? Can I consider you being a reliable partner in this relationship? You have to prove to the investor that. So you have to show that, first of all, you are a good student, that you go to the university, you get very good grades, your professors, they respect you, you get a diploma eventually, you want to continue studying in the university, you have friends, your friends respect you, you participate in some student activities, you're an active student, you're not chasing money. You're chasing something bigger than that. You're chasing reputation. You're chasing the long-term strategy, successful strategy. So you're a good man. And if you're a good man, I'm going to give you the money. Because I kind of love you. I don't know. I respect you. That's what the investors are looking for when we're talking about that kind of investment, when you're a student. Try to present yourself as a good student. Like, imagine that you are trying to get into a university. How would you write what do you call it? Entrance letter or whatever. The letter which you write before you get into the university. You present yourself. You explain how good you are, that you participated in this and that you did these projects for free, you did that project for free, that you're from a from a good family maybe. It also matters. Tell this to the investor, where are you coming from, who you are. And then they will give you money more with more interest. Then the idea, of course, matters. Of course, you need to present what is it, what are you trying to do. But it's second question is going to be. The first question is going to be, hey guys, who you are, tell me about yourself. Then I will listen to your idea. If it's interesting, I will understand that you have brains. If you invented something which does make sense, then I understand that you can think, which is important. But I realize, again, your idea will fail, most probably. And that's okay for the investor, for the smart investor, for the investor who is looking into the future. Next question, do you use functional programming? Well, I use it sometimes. Sometimes I develop my small DSL, like domain-specific languages, and every time I do that, well, almost every time I do that, they're functional. But writing in functional programming languages like Lisp or Haskell or Scala or Clojure, it's quite hard for me. It's not, I tried, I wrote, but usually I use those languages for some specific packages, for specific needs, but not general purpose programming. For general purpose programming, procedural or object-oriented programming is, of course, way more convenient. Next question. Recently, I watched all the videos from your SeedRamp channel. I like them a lot. Did you manage to get any profit from those few who accepted your money? Thanks for watching the videos. Actually, to everybody who is interested in investments, that was an interesting experience for me 6 years ago. SeedRamp, you can go to the website, seedramp.com. That was a micro investment fund, which I created myself, and I interviewed a few dozens of startups, and I gave money only to 3 of them. That was interesting, and I never got anything back. None of those startups succeeded, which actually was exactly what I was expecting. I was not expecting to get any results from 3 investments. My plan was to invest into 100 startups. And after 100 investments, yes, in that case, the probability of getting good results back was reasonable, would be reasonable. But after just 3 investments of $5,000 or $10,000 each, you get nothing back. And my plan was to attract larger investors to this activity. People with millions of money come to me. I organize those interviews. We talk to young startups. We just spend 30 minutes of our time or 1 hour of the time to interview a startup. And by the end of the interview, you just write a check. That was the idea. And if we write those checks 10 times a day, then we can spend $1 million, for example, every month. But the possibility to get a few millions back is quite high. Unfortunately, this idea didn't fly, because I didn't find those investors. I tried to talk to a number of investors in Silicon Valley. Some of them did like the idea. Some of them gave me some comments. Some of them actually, they were interested in giving some advice. But the bottom line, I didn't get any check from big guys. So I stopped doing that because I'm not a millionaire at that level and I cannot continue. If any of you is interested to restart that, we can think about it. Next question. I recently began to read Clean Craftsmanship, and I want to ask you about the two concepts from this book. TDD, what do you think about this approach, and pair programming? Both are great. Test-driven development, we can't live without it. Sorry for the noise. Test-driven development, of course, we write tests first and then we write the code second, but only when the software is more or less mature. You cannot do TDD when you just start doing the project because you have no code and it's hard to write any test upfront because there is no code to test. But as soon as your software is large enough, at least I would say 5,000 lines of code, at that point of time you definitely do only TDD. Every time you see any problem or any time you want to make a new feature, you first write a test for it, you confirm that it doesn't exist or the problem is right there, and only after that you create the fix or implement the feature. That's for sure. About pair programming, I think it's really good, but it's a luxury which not so many people can afford. You just need to have time of another person to sit next to you and code with you. How many of us can afford that? It basically means that the task will be solved by two people instead of one person. And it's beautiful. I love it. I was doing it when I was younger, and sometimes I'm doing that one now, but it's very expensive. Let's put it this way. Next question. Does a project manager need to have a programming training, I would say, if he came to the IT company from another sphere, another domain? It wouldn't hurt, but I think that a good project manager can manage any project. Can manage taxi drivers and can manage dentists and can manage programmers. It doesn't matter for a project manager, because project management is not about writing code. The project management is about allocating resources among people, setting the rules for people, and making sure that the right people get the right resources and the wrong people don't get the resources. This is the job of a manager. I said it 1,000 times on multiple videos, and let me repeat it again. The job of a project manager is to make sure that people are rewarded and punished correctly. That's the only thing a project manager has to do. Just invent the method or a system or rules or principles in the team so that the people who contribute more than others, they get the rewards. The people who don't contribute, they get the punishment. If you can do that, you're a perfect project manager. Do you need to know how to write code for this? Well, it may help if you know that. But even if you don't know, you can ask those people. You can ask them, what do you think is the right way to reward and punish people in our team? And they will tell you. They're taxi drivers, they will tell you. They're dentists, they will tell you. They're programmers, they can also tell you. Just ask them. This is what most project managers don't do. They think that they know. They come to the team and they know how to do it. They know how to manage these people. You better ask them, hey guys, let's sit together and let's decide what is contribution in our team. How would you measure that? Tell us. And some people in the beginning, they will say it's impossible to measure that. We're contributing equally. We're blah, blah, blah. You let them talk. Yes, you listen to that. And then you say, how about we try? Maybe it's possible. Let's invent the principles of measuring our contribution, and eventually they will suggest something, being taxi drivers or programmers. And then you institutionalize those principles. You say that's going to be our law. What you just suggested. It's not my suggestion. You suggested that. I just make sure that it's going to be the law from today and later. And later on. We're going to rule by the principles of fairness, of fair distribution of rewards. And the more fair this distribution is, the more people gonna love you as a manager, and the more people enjoy working in a team. Not all people, of course. Some people don't like working in your team. And these people, they will quit, and that's good. That's what you have to achieve. You have to get to the point where people leave your team. Bad contributors, ineffective contributors, people who don't contribute. They come to you and say, I can't work here anymore because I'm not being appreciated. And you should say, well, that's great. That's exactly what we wanted 3 months ago, so that you feel not appreciated. But not because I don't love you personally, but because the rules demonstrated you that your contribution is not appreciated. It's too little. And then that person will say, okay, well, I'm going to find another job. And you say, sure, go for it. For example, it's a taxi driver, and the taxi driver who is being rude to the clients constantly. So you don't punish him personally. You just create the rules which will somehow track that rudeness and make sure it's becoming visible, and it turns into metrics. And those metrics, they will punish that driver, and that driver will get less and less money. And eventually the driver will come to you and say, hey, I don't like being in your team because another guy gets 2 times more money than I do. And you will say, well, that's great. You can leave. Because that's exactly what we wanted. We wanted to unappreciate the rudeness. We wanted to fairly evaluate the contribution of everybody. Hope I answered the question. I think I was answering another question. Okay, the question is, I was working for 3 years in proprietary software development. I saw a lot of bad code from people who work for 5 years or longer. The question is it possible to develop the feeling of beautiful code, or maybe it's just a talent? You have it or you don't have it. I think it's definitely not a talent. Well, I was coding for 15 years in my career, first 15 years, and all of my code was ugly. I know it now. If I go back to that time and I look at that code, even though the code is lost already, I remember that code. I was writing very bad code. Looking at the style, looking at the formatting, looking at the elegance of this code, it was ugly. It's a matter of practice, I believe. It's a matter of the feedback you're getting from somewhere. In order to become better, you shouldn't only write code. You shouldn't only learn. You shouldn't only spend years in front of the computer. This is not going to get you anywhere. You should get some feedback from somewhere. Somebody has to tell you every day, you are writing bad code. You're writing bad code. This is bad. This is bad. This is bad. If somebody or something exists and provides this feedback, you will improve. The question is who it's going to be. It can be a person. I don't really believe that it's possible to find such a person who will train you for 3 years, who will review your code and 3 years, day by day, give you feedback. I don't know how much you're going to pay to this guy. But you can use static analysis. You can use code formatting tools. Install them. Make them strict. Make them as strict as possible. Many people don't do that. I don't know why. They just turn on the formatting rules, the tools, and they disable the formatting rules because they're annoying. They just say, yeah, that's too annoying for me. I want to continue writing code. But that's wasting of your time. You will continue writing code, but you're not growing. You have to configure the tools, including IDE, to be as negative about your code as possible. Take your IDE, which you're using right now, and see how many code formatting recommendations it has for you. Turn them on, all of them. Make sure all of them highlight your code in red when something is wrong. Don't turn it off. And listen to these tools. They are the best teachers you can get. Plus, of course, static analyzers and style checkers and whatever. The more of those instruments you have, the better programmer you will become. And these people who you're talking about, who are writing code for 5 years, they are doing the same thing every day. They're not improving because nobody is telling them that they're doing something wrong. So they just earning the experience. They just writing the same thing over and over again year by year, but it doesn't move them anywhere. They just can type faster. They can hit the buttons faster. They can open files and close files faster. That's okay. But the learning curve is flat. They're not moving up. For you, in order to move up, you have to have a teacher who doesn't like you. Not the teacher who appreciates you. Not the teacher who loves what you're doing. This is a bad teacher. The teacher must be constantly negatively appraising you. Maybe sometimes it can say, well, okay, this is fine, you did it right. But it's better to be negative about your work every day. That's how you grow. You grow by going through resentment, by going through something that pushes you back. You cannot grow if the environment loves you. This is not growth. It's degradation. You grow when you suffer. The more you suffer in coding, the better programmer you become. Find the source of suffering. Somebody has to be constantly cause troubles to you. Some tools, some instruments, some checkers, something which catches you and tells you, hey, that's wrong, that's wrong. Suffering leads to high quality of code. Next question, where can I buy your 256 blog hacks book in Russia? I think in the maybe next months, there will be a chance to do that. Just subscribe to my Telegram channel and I will update you. Next question, what is the main benefit of your current location in the comparison with Western countries? I mean, life, not about work. Well, I hope that the person who's asking that is not in Russia, because otherwise I think the answer would be obvious. I think I'm in Russia right now. I am in Moscow. And I can compare life here with the life I remember in California, in Amsterdam, and it's incomparable. Today, it's incomparable. The quality of everything is higher. The quality of food is incomparably high, incomparable with the quality of food in Europe, for example, in Amsterdam or in America. The quality of people, let me put it this way, the quality of people, of how they look, of how they dress up, of how they talk, of how they live, of how they talk, of how they communicate, of how they present themselves, all of that is better. I just enjoy people here, maybe partially because I'm Russian as well. So these people are kind of my people. But I lived for 12 years abroad. I lived in America, I lived in Europe. So I kind of feel that those people are also my people. I knew them. I was very close to them. I was not an immigrant there. I was actually living with American people and with European people. I was dating American girls, for example. So I was there. And people here in Russia, they care more. It seems they care more about the quality of their life. Just by the way, for example, they dress. I was in New York just a month ago. The majority of people don't care how they look. They don't care whether they're beautiful, whether their dress is beautiful, whether they're stylish, where this is a modern look, where this is close to what we see on the fashion TV, or it's just garbage which they put on because they had to put something on. So it looks like in New York, the majority of people don't care what other people think about their look. And it seems that they believe this is right. They believe that this is the right society where everyone can look the way they want to look. Like I go to my job, I go to the office, or I go to the street, I go to the supermarket, just how I want to look. I don't care what other people think. I just me, myself. This is my identity. So whatever. This feeling, this mentality leads to the environment where people are ugly. Not the way they're born, but the way they dress up, the way they present themselves, the way they look, the way they feel about themselves. Overall, it looks uncomfortable for me to be there. In Moscow, in Russia, it's different. I'm not talking about everybody. I'm talking about the majority of people. Quality of food, quality of people, quality of the infrastructure here. In Moscow, everything is way more convenient. The taxi, the delivery, the electric scooters on the street. They don't have it in New York. You cannot rent a scooter on the street of New York and just take from one place to another. It just don't exist. They don't have car sharing in New York. Well, they had it in California. I don't know about now, but they had it before, but way less convenient than what they have in Russia. In Russia, you can go to a car staying on the street in any place on the street. You can find them on every corner. You just open the car with the mobile app. The car opens, you just sit down and you drive. I didn't find that in New York. It just doesn't exist. And the scooters, it's just electric scooters. You just get it in Moscow. They're everywhere. And I use it very often. Just take the scooter and you go through the street to another place and you leave the scooter there. These things are comfortable for people and they don't exist in New York, for example. And of course, the service, all of the things which I mentioned, they're way cheaper in Moscow. Maybe 2 times or 3 times cheaper than in New York with the higher quality. So overall, if you compare the quality of life here and the quality of life in New York or in Europe, in Amsterdam, then it's just obvious that you have to live here. In terms of work, in terms of money, definitely you have to be in America. If you want to make more money, if you want to get bigger salary, then you go to America. That's absolutely. But the question is, what are you gonna buy with this money? We're not living to save money. This is not the goal of life, right? This is important for life. That we need to save money. We need to make money. But again, we need to. We don't want to. This is not the objective of our life. The objective is to enjoy how we live, what we do, who we talk to. That's what we're aiming for. But the money will help to do that. But in America, you get the money, but you can't get that. You cannot enjoy who you talk to. You cannot enjoy what you eat. You cannot enjoy where you live. Yes, you have money, but they don't help you to get there because there is no there. It's only here. There, you don't have what we have here. So if you are a person from abroad, if you're not from Russia, think about it. At least try to come here once. Try to travel like I travel. I travel to Europe. I travel to America. I see how people live there. You, people from abroad, people from America and Europe, come to Russia. Just come here for a week. Spend some time in Moscow. Spend some time in other cities. Just look around. Just go to restaurants. Spend some time on the street. And you will see the difference. And then go back and compare and think twice. Where do you want to spend the next 10 years of your life? Do you want to get quality or do you want to make money? Well, I hope that in Russia we're also going to make more money, as much money as people make now in America. And it will happen. But it's not going to happen next year. It's not going to happen in 5 years. But in 10 years or maybe 20 years, it will happen. Unless something dramatically tragic will happen. But I hope nothing like that will happen. So in Russia, people will eventually make as much money as people, programmers, making money in America. We're just getting there. We're moving there. If you look at the trajectory of salaries, the trend, how the salaries are growing in Russia, you will see that they are growing every year. And if you compare the salaries in Russia 10 years ago and salaries of programmers in Russia now, it's going to be a huge gap. Now maybe 2 times or even maybe 3 times more than 10 years ago. Move forward for another 10 years, for another 20 years. Most probably it's going to be as high as in California. And then it's going to be inevitable to get away from California and move to Russia because, like I said, the quality of the product which you buy for this money is extremely higher than you can buy in America. A few more questions and we stop because we're running out of time. The question from Ivan. I'm 26 years old. I'm a machine learning developer. I work at a startup and it seems to me that this is a promising. I have freedom to make intellectual decisions, a creative atmosphere, but a startup doesn't imply stability. I also received an offer from Yandex for the position of data analyst. How can I decide what is the best for me as a specialist? Just go to Yandex. It's the only decision, the only right decision. You have to be, if you're 26 years old, like I said in the beginning of this session, you have to you have to build yourself. You have to build your CV. This is the time where you build the CV. You're not making money. You're building the CV when you're 26 years old. You're going to be poor for the next 10 years, for sure. Well, comparatively poor. You're not going to be poor. You're not going to live on the street, but you're not going to be a millionaire. You're not going to be a success. You're going to be moderate. Like, you're going to be nobody. You're going to be nobody in a startup or you're going to be nobody in Yandex. When you finish working in Yandex for 10 years, you're not going to be nobody. You're going to be somebody. You're going to be somebody who worked for 10 years in Yandex. And this is a very investable person, very trustable. Somebody who worked for 10 years in 5 different startups, it's still a nobody. Maybe a nobody with a nice car and a nice apartment, but still a nobody. Okay, let me find one question to answer and that's it. We're gonna go. Now, I'll pick the one which I find the most interesting. Okay, this one. Do I think that a programmer every day should read Y Combinator news or Hubber or any other sources with new technologies, or maybe study something new? That's an interesting question. And I tell myself every week that I have to do that. I have to read the news. I have to spend 15 minutes every day to stay up to date of what's going on in the world. And I constantly forget about that because I love programming way more. I love writing code. I love making something instead of reading what other people are making. All of these news, they're about the success of other people. And it's quite annoying to read that, especially if you're not very successful yourself. But I still try to convince myself that this is important, to read the news. And I suggest you do the same. I suggest you stay up to date, because if you don't know what's going on there, of course you get lost. You're not. You cannot be a software engineer if you don't know what's happening around you. The bottom line, we need to be connected to the world. No matter how much now the world is trying to disconnect us and put us on different sides and build a wall between us. But I believe that IT world and computer scientists and computer engineers and software developers, we are all one team. No matter which passport you hold right now, you have a Russian passport, you have Ukrainian passport like me, you have American passport, it doesn't matter. These passports, they're just things which were given to us by some people because these people want to control us. But we are above that. We software engineers, we build this world. I'm just moving from the question you asked to a more political question, but I'm just trying to finish this podcast on a positive note. So we are building the world. We're building this planet. We create something which will stay with the humanity for centuries. And who we are, where we are, what are the names, what are the languages we use, what are the nationalities are attached to us, it doesn't matter. It's all below us. We are above that. So when you read some news, read them internationally. Look at what people are doing in New York, what people are doing in Russia, what people are doing in China. I believe very soon the world will be mixed way more than it was before. And maybe I will live in China, maybe you will live in New York. It all most probably will happen. We must be prepared for that by looking outside and reading the news.